live on YouTube. Actually, I can see that on my phone. The wonders of technology. So for those of you who are joining us via YouTube, let me go over how College Council works, and I'm going to ask our wonderful Vice President of Students, Denise Wisenhunt, to run the meeting for me because I'm having some challenges with my laptop. You can see my earbuds in, which technically aren't even working right now. But College Council is the highest level of governance for the college. We have constituency groups, representatives from a number of areas on the college. For those of you who are watching via YouTube, if you ever have any questions or an agenda item, I would urge you to reach out to your respective representative, which should be listed on the meeting agenda. Given the things that are going on in our world, I've reached out to one of our great faculty, Dr. Erin Charlins, to see if she would share a few words. She runs our Emoja program and provides leadership in a number of different areas, both on campus, regionally, at the statewide level. And she has done an amazing job of supporting our students through this pandemic, but also during these senseless acts of violence that we're witnessing across the country. And so, having been to a number of Emoja events, I asked Dr. Charlins if she would join us to pour libation in support of anyone who has been the victim of this violence, this senseless violence. And so if Dr. Charlins is with us, I'll turn over the start of the meeting to Dr. Charlins.
I am here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that you're all able to see my screen. Jeannie, can you see my screen? All right.
You know, real quick, is there an echo?
Yes.
There is.
Yes, there's echo.
That generally happens when somebody is on two different ways to access the volume.
They got to mute one.
Okay, go ahead, and Erin, let's try it again.
Okay, that's much better. So I wanted to say thank you to Ricky and to the council for inviting me to be here this afternoon to open with libation. When I do libation or ritual, I like to start with a greeting, and I just sort of fill it out and see what feels right in the moment. And today I want to welcome all of you to this space with a greeting that might be familiar to some of you, but it is the word Sawubona. Sawubona is a greeting that is used in the southern parts of Africa, specifically by the people of Zulu, the Zulu people. And literally translated, it means, I see you. And when I examined the word a little bit further, I understood that it actually has a much deeper meaning than I see you. Sawubona means not only do I see you as an individual, but those who stand with me see you as well. My ancestors, my family, my community, wherever I go, they're with me. So we see you. Our attention is with you. Our seeing you allows us to discover your needs and your fears. Our seeing you allows us to accept you as you are. You are important and you are valued in this space. And so the response to Sawubona is often Shikoba, which literally translates to, I am pleased to exist for you. And it's a way of saying, I exist for you, you exist for me, we exist for each other. And today I'm especially grateful to be seen, to have life, and to breathe. These photos were taken at Ohio State University on the day of mourning following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. And I've seen these images before, but they were particularly striking to me. As I looked at them again, I saw the words in mourning that is pinned to the students' shirts and jackets. And so I started to think, What does it mean to be in mourning? Grief is more along the lines of what we feel and what we think on the inside. And mourning is that outward expression of our grief. And I want to apologize because I'm very impacted by
There's no need to apologize.
the murder of George Floyd. I've been in mourning. And most often I'm able to carry my pain privately and silently. I can compartmentalize my feelings and move about my day. The very public deaths preceding Floyd started to wear on my spirit. But this feels different. I've cried from the deepest place in my heart. I've gone back to some of my early childhood friends and I've reached out to people that were racist and used the N-word toward me. I didn't have the capacity or the courage to confront them as a child or as a teenager. But my children are now the same age that I was when I experienced that. So I need to be accountable to myself because I have that same expectation of my children. And my tears that have consistently flowed just about every day, they've been a release of all of the senseless killings, the feelings that I've had about them, my own encounters with racism and injustice. My tears also come with humility because it is humbling to witness the transformation of others, and I'm seeing people all around me genuinely go through a process of self-examination, and that is beautiful. Not only what does it mean to mourn, but what is it like and what does it mean to have to consistently mourn the loss of Black life? What is it like to be in a perpetual state of grief? What is it like to be consistently in a perpetual state of trauma? This is the experience of so many of our Black students who show up at our doorsteps. And grief comes in many forms. When the criminal justice system claims our children, our siblings, our parents, we grieve. When our parents or a parent or our caretakers are working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and clothes on our backs, that abandonment meant we don't have access to them, we grieve. The loss of innocence that comes with witnessing unnecessary violence in our communities, we grieve. And most certainly death, we grieve. I'm going to venture to say that George Floyd's death was probably the very first time that many of us witnessed murder right before our eyes. I viewed it on my cell phone just a few inches away from me, with the officers on his knee, with the officer's knees on his neck, calling for his mother, telling the officers he couldn't breathe for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We watched this man plead to the people who are supposed to protect and serve. He pled for his life, and he ultimately died. Many of us are angry right now, and you know, people don't just arrive angry. Anger is the result of being unseen. Anger is the result of being unheard. We've pinned signs on our shirts that said, we're in mourning. We did that with Trayvon. We did that with Tamir. You saw it with Sandra. You saw it with Philando. How many more Black lives have to be murdered before you see us? When do we as an institution look at our practices and identify the ones that are anti-Black and get rid of them? Let's not stop there. Our Indigenous brothers and sisters and other people of color, we have to examine those practices that have failed them as well. Our African ancestors, my African ancestors, were brought to this country to create wealth for this nation. Our inheritance, poor neighborhoods, faulty education systems. We give more money to policing Black people than we give to creating educational opportunities and opportunities to create wealth. Mass incarceration, criminalization of Blackness. That's the inheritance. Whether we're bird watching midday with our Harvard degrees, jogging through our neighborhood practicing self-care, sleeping peacefully at home, playing in the neighborhood with our friends, we can be hunted and killed. And if you're still enough, you can hear the souls of our ancestors weeping. Their great sacrifice. They're weeping for justice. They're weeping for peace that can only happen as a result of justice. In a moment, I'm going to pour libation, and I have some elements on the table that I'll share. I have a candle that represents, it's fire, and it represents our connection to ancestors and also our connection to the youth, which we serve on our campus community. I have pepper, which represents the challenging times, such as this, that we go through. I also have fruit, represented by this apple, to remind us of the sweet times, and those sweet times that often come on the heels of challenging times. I also have water. Water represents peace and cleansing and calm. I'd like to pour libation for the Black lives that we've lost to senseless violence in the recent past. Those we know: Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Tyree King, Laquan McDonald, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and the names that we don't know. Pouring libation is our way of honoring and remembering them. So I'm pouring libation now. Their deaths cannot be in vain. As uncomfortable as it is to visualize the death of George Floyd, it is symbolic of the racism that exists in this country and the evidence that we need to interrupt the status quo and use our platforms to make sure that not another Black life dies on our watch. So there's an uprising happening, and someone asked me yesterday, do you really think all of this is helping? All of the protests, all of the town halls, all of the ruckus in the streets? And it was a genuine question from this person. And I think about myself and you all and the council and our campus community and the work that we do for students. And the achievement gaps for the groups of students that have been failed educationally throughout the system. And sometimes it seems overwhelming and almost impossible. And it's easier just to do the status quo. It's easier just to do the day-to-day work and push that paper along than it is to create new practices and policies. And sometimes we question, how can I, with my little slice of this pie, make a difference? I just teach a couple of classes. My impact isn't that much. I mainly manage a budget or numbers. I don't work on the front lines with students. We have so many limiting beliefs in terms of the impact that we can make. But then we turn on the television and we watch the news. They've been reporting day by day since this uprising began of every single victory that has been achieved. You see the officers who killed George Floyd arrested. You see the Minnesota City Council members announce their intent to disband the police and invest in community-led public safety. You see counties redirecting funds and investing them back into the community. You see universities severing their relationships with the police. You see high schools committing to eliminating armed officers from their school grounds. That change in practice that you vetted and that you instituted, that decision to increase funding for that group or that program, that policy change, these small changes can add up to be monumental and transformational for our institutions, and more importantly for our students. Now is the time for us to bring revolutionary thinking to the table. We don't come to work at a place like City to enact the same old policies because everyone else is doing it that way. Now is the time to be bold and ask questions like, what kind of deleterious impact might this practice have if we implement it on Black students? Will there be a negative impact on Latinx students if we exercise this policy? Yes, we can exercise it, but should we? If we aren't asking these questions, who is asking them? Let us grant ourselves permission to love our students, to see our students, to see them in that Sawubona way, where we recognize their struggle, we see their value, and we fight relentlessly to serve them. Now is our time to be a student of our own work, our own classrooms, and to be true equity champions. Thank you for the time to be here this afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Charlins. Very well done. And we appreciate all your efforts and everyone else's efforts to support our students during this very trying time. Folks, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Denise because she'll be able to see the attachments and lead us in the discussions that are on the agenda. Again, thank you, Dr. Charles, very much appreciated.
I too want to thank Dr. Charlins for allowing us to have a space to reflect on the reality of the moment and the potential and our respective roles and responsibilities in making it better. And so I really want to, your words resonated, and we so appreciate you as faculty on this campus and what you do for our students. At this point now, there's a part by which was discussed, and Ricky has kind of suggested too, and that is, what is our individual responsibility in this journey, and some of the words that she shared, and that is to check on each other, to make sure that we spend this time checking on our colleagues, checking on our students, and checking on our community. And when we say the community, I always say, how do you treat that person not on those 40 acres of our campus, which is rather interesting, I think, for 40 acres, but how do you treat the people at the McDonald's across the street? So how do you treat the better communities? So just want to really underscore that it's a time now to check on each other, to have those conversations, and really a time to pivot. So thank you, Dr. Charlins. And I just wanted to share something that Ricky really felt was important to raise too, and that is to check on each other, because it's not easy right now. Another piece is that I also wanted to share that our president on June 5th reconfigured his open house meetings. He has these meetings, and this meeting had, I think, something like over 200 participants who were people who were there just to learn more about, the chain of events that has happened in the national media, but also to reflect upon the things that we've done as a campus, and just to really listen to some of the key supports that we offer on our campus during this very difficult time. One was Nadine Henley, and a special shout out to Ms. Henley, who is a part of our mental health team here at City College. She's an African-American woman who will be working with our students over the next few weeks. So if you should have students who need a place to cope with what's happening, I really strongly suggest that you contact mental health. And thanks also to Leslie Easton and the support that she's given as well. And then also, let's see, it's time now to do a roll call and an approval of the May 26 minutes. So at this point, everyone, I need a motion. I would like everyone to review the minutes, and I'll be entertaining a motion. So we'll just take a minute to do that. There are only 14 of us here, so we're going to do it the good old-fashioned way in this room. So I will listen for someone who wants to move to approve the minutes, and then I'll need a second. So
Motion to approve.
So moved by
Second.
Dr. Pettis, second by Dean Yule. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any objections? Motion carries. Minutes are now approved. We're now going to proceed for purposes of record as well for the roll call. So I'm going to actually call the names. I think that's an easier way of doing this. And then you just indicate whether or not you're present so that I can use it based upon a system that I have before me. The first one being Jeannie Tyler. Are you present, Jeannie Tyler?
I'm present. Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Thank you. Rob Yule,
Present.
Gloria Rica,
Here for Tilly?
and Jocelyn Hill.
Present, good afternoon.
Thank you. And President Shabazz. He is present.
I'm here. I am here.
Yes.
And can we introduce Jocelyn, Dr. Hill?
Yes, I'm going to reintroduce Jocelyn Hill, and I'd like to give a particular shout out. She's now representing as the newest member of our SPA unit.
Yay.
Yay. Hercules. Okay, Susan Murray.
Present.
Luis Perez.
Present.
Tia Pickens. She's doing a shout out she's doing a motion sensor to tell us.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Masahiro Omae.
Present.
Thank you. Roxann Solis.
I'm here.
Cesar Gumapas.
I am here.
Nadia Madalawi.
She's on YouTube. She had a difficulty. Was rejecting her on trying to get in.
She's present. She's on by phone, but she's having some difficulties, and then she's also going to reconnect by computer. Okay. But she is in attendance.
Awana Payne.
I'm here.
All right, we're all here. And Denise Wissenhunt is present as well. Okay, so the first, the third item on the agenda is a summer enrollment update by Lori Arica on behalf of, I believe, our Vice President of Instruction, Tilly Chavez.
Well, we have wonderful news about summer, and we're working as a team not replacing, but acting for Tilly this week. It's Jeannie, I, and Rob has taken the lead on the enrollment information. So I'm just going to turn this over to Rob to comment on this item.
Thanks, Lori. Well, on behalf of VPI Chavez, we have the enrollment update for the week of June 8th, 2020. Pretty much good news in many ways. Also, I should say that all the data that's been compiled for this week are basically coming from two sources, Campus Solutions and our San Diego City College dashboard. And this was pulled on Friday, June 5th, 2020. We started with the head count at City College, 7,373, Mesa College, 8,184, Miramar, 5,196. Having a productivity level of 15 to 1. So our student to faculty ratios at 15 to 1. Our FTEF is holding in at 68.34. Also our FTES is at 1,031. That means we're slightly over what we have been funded for the summer. I'll chat very briefly about what that means going forward into the fall. But some other bullet points, currently for the summer, 254 classes are online, 107 online sync. We are moving at an impressive 90%, 95% fill rate. And a significant number of students are on the wait list, 1,858. Our deans and chairs are reviewing the waitlist classes to see how that may have implications for the fall in particular. And as we look at courses with very low demand, we call it go, no go, as you look at the records. In this case, we're looking to see if any classes that are truly low enrolled, whether they can be canceled for the summer. Again, we're slightly over the amount allocated for us for the summer. So the likelihood is that more than anything else, we would be keeping our eyes on the fall term. There are nursing summer updates, trying to keep up with them. I think we're up to number 6 now, but there's a total of 69 clinical hours for 5 faculty. And those particular hours, there's a hope that that will be completed between what was the 2nd and now June 30th. So that's the summary of where things are as an adjustment going into this week. I can share with you that the 95% fill rate and actually our overall numbers shows there was quite a bit of movement in 1 week's time.
Right.
As far as whether or not by going over our FTES allocation, it does mean as we look at our targets that we have less to work with as we go into the next fall term. Deans and chairs are looking at their enrollments very carefully and really trying to bring fidelity to what courses really are making it and are being enrolled substantially. And if there are a few low enrolled courses, they really have to meet muster to go forward. It's unlikely. But that activity continues each week. And I also will probably be meeting with individuals throughout this week, going into next week, just to continue it on behalf of BPI Chavez. We'll probably talk, if we haven't spoken to you already, you'll be hearing from us very shortly. As your classes, we hope that people keep an eye on how things are shifting and changing.
Hi, Robbie, this is Tia. I know that you provided a document earlier. If you could share that screen, or I can have Cesar share it on your behalf.
If Cesar can share it, that'll be fine.
Great.
Yeah, and let me just publicly thank all of the faculty and the deans, everyone involved, folks in A&R, classified professionals. This was a total team effort of folks, and it may be an indicator of what's to come for the fall. And so we're going to be having conversations in terms of what does this show us moving into the fall, the demand for our courses. But this is, in fact, good news. So thank you, Robbie, and everyone involved.
Okay, thank you so very much. So the next item on the, are you going to show the?
Oh, I'm having a little technical difficulty pulling up that doc.
And this has been a very interesting day for Zoom, folks. So bear with us. I think we'll just keep moving forward, Denise, given the time.
Okay. The next item is the recap of the retiree event. Lori, you're up again.
What an amazing event. We had it on the 27th. I think many of you were there at the retirement. And we do have a slide on that. Are we able to show that, Cesar or Tia?
Yeah.
Show the list of folks who retired, who were honored at that meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, hold on one second.
There's about 15 people, and all in all, their experience is like almost 300 years of experience of people that retired. Classified folks, if you can see the list, it's just amazing to honor these people that have been with us so long. The longest person was Rita Mason, 42 years with the district. Alicia Rincon, 42. Ophelia Armstrong, 39, and Ellen Armstrong, 38. Others were in the 20s and 30s of years that people were here. It was way more enjoyable, way more enjoyable than I think anyone could have expected. It was fun, it was funny. People got to speak up probably a lot more than they would have had it been in person, because people didn't have to come very far. They could just join from wherever they were. So I think it was probably, it went on forever. Even it went past the time we thought we would end. So anybody else want to just comment on the retiree celebration that we had last month? Did you enjoy it? Anything in particular you noticed, or?
Yeah, this is Cesar. You know, I just enjoyed it. There was like so many people who participated, which I was amazed at. And it was so lively and fun, and I didn't know you could realize. I didn't realize we could have that on a Zoom virtual, meeting. But it was a great moment. Folks shared stories, and a lot of folks got a little misty-eyed. But it was a great event.
And in addition to speaking, thank you, Tia. People were writing things in the chat, which are a permanent record for people. And that was saved, of course. So here's our list of folks. I'm sure you recognize those people like Cecilia, who's been here a long time. I won't mention the names, but just an amazing group that we're going to miss a lot of experience that we have said goodbye to. We're not replacing these folks, right, Ricky?
That many of them, it depends how they're funded, but the focus is on the event, and I agree that it was an amazing event. Thank you, Lori.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I was surprised. But anybody else want to chime in about this that attended?
I'll just say that the stories were fantastic, and you heard people who had taken classes, who who now attended to wish farewell from people. I mean, just all the just little incidental stories, how people were touched, just really was just the total City College way. So it was great. Thank you.
It was good. Anybody else? Just all good, huh? Thank you, Ricky. I think it was a wonderful event and surprisingly participated by many people that may not have been able to come before. So this is a success.
Thank you. So just in the interest of, I skipped over a part of the agenda, and that was at the very top, and that was some of the work that our campus, entire campus community and our great college president did for the student who was hit by a rubber projectile by the police. I think her name is Leslie Forcrum. And so, Ricky, if you want to share any more about some of the things that this campus did in rallying support for the student. I mean, it just really showed how we turned the situation into action to help the student.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who donated. We put out a call to action and several folks donated with the assistance of Roxann and her team. We've purchased $2,000 worth of gift certificates. Now, originally there was a request for plane tickets. In the time that we raised the money, the family had actually received the plane tickets. And so we offered them, and they communicated to us that what they really needed was food. And so we put your donations to good use. Cesar will be writing an article about it, and Roxann is working to meet with the family in the next couple of days to deliver the gift certificates, gift cards in the amount of $2,000. So kudos to City College for raising $2,000 for one of our very own students, a 59-year-old grandmother, student, mother. And so we're looking forward to supporting the family during their time of need.
Yes, and this, with that said, let's transition a little bit on as to the update on our state and district and college budget situation. And Roxann or Ricky, feel free to chime in some of the things that are happening in regards to our governor's revises. You all know, many of you know, it's been communicated there were some tremendous recommended cuts by our governor to which would greatly have impacted many of our programs on the campus. And it has been the effort of the State Assembly and the Senate to basically not be in support of this. Their position is that they're not in support of this, but this is contingent upon receiving that second level of additional stimulus money. So the idea is, in fact, is if we don't get that support, those additional resources, what it would mean is that it's an adverse effect even more on our campus. But I just wanted to give you an update on that. Do you have anything that you want to share in regards to that, Ricky? And you would need to turn your blocker off. Yeah.
Yes, sorry about that. We're facing a financial cliff. Thank you, Denise, for explaining that. And so we require and suggest and hope that you would advocate to our federally elected officials, because if this second phase of the CARE funds doesn't go through, we're facing some massive cuts, folks.
Yes. And as you know, there's been a lot of work at the district and college level in terms of budget. I know that there is planning in all of the different divisions to address some of the impact of the inherent budget reductions. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. Also that there's been some reductions to GFU release time. As an executive committee, there's been discussions, and I know that the president has also ensued in additional conversations. I really want to commend this body in terms of looking at innovative practices, alternative ways to provide support for some of those who would be adversely impacted by general GFU release time reductions. Is there anything that you want to add in regards to that, Roxann?
I think that just to add that it is very important that you know, we all pitch in and kind of look at this from you know, campus perspective and monitor our budgets. And you know, I will provide additional tools. I've, you know, provided some cheat sheets in the past, so I will go ahead and send that stuff out. And if you need help, please use us as a resource, but it is more important than ever to keep track of your budget, because every dollar that comes in and goes out, we need to know where it's going. As Ricky has stated, if the Senate and the our state assembly is not successful in securing the second round of stimulus funds, we are facing a hardship. So I just want to reiterate that we really need to, you know, find some best practices to monitor our budget. And I'm here to help, and I will share the tools that I use in order to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, there are, and I know you've seen it, the president sent out a communication about a week ago about the GFR restrictions. You know, restrictive budgets are those that have like certain delineated ways in which we can spend money. So we are definitely going to, you know, are feeling the proposed reductions with GRF allocations, in particular, equity, SSSP, basic skills. There will be a reduction of at least 10 to 15%, but also noting that this is on top of the reality that our funding is also adjusted because we had less FTS, which is part of how they allocate those resources. So I know that there are lots of discussions on how we're going to do that. I know that the Equity Committee, the SSIC, as well as you know, a lot of different entities are working together to address that. But that's real, folks. Those are real. That money is coming down. They have cut the funds. And while I understand, you know, the difficulty, particularly during this time for reductions, the impact for the strong workforce is even worse. That is possible with some projected 55% reductions in strong workforce resources. So this is a lot more like back in the day. You may recall around 2008, 2009, where many programs, for example, our restricted funds were cut tremendously. I recall like a 40% reduction in DSPS. And so, you know, these things will impact, but, you know, there's a lot of good work, you know, trying to figure out what we could do. Maybe, you know, really looking at how to be more innovative, how to look at practice such as, you know, bringing more grant resources, because the state and the situation that we're in light of COVID, you know, just doesn't have those resources. Again, as the president indicated, this is where advocacy is critical to, you know, raise the utter importance of why these resources are critical at this time. President Shabazz, did you want to say something?
Well, I wanted to give the entire group an opportunity to weigh in if there are questions about our budget or any of the items 1 through, I think we're on number 5 now. Would welcome the opportunity for questions of College Counsel on any of the items, including the budget that we're talking about right now. Yeah. And certainly, Denise, I would also give kudos to Dr. Savage, Dr. Bull, everyone involved with the student event that was hosted on Friday evening. Well, I guess it was 3:00. Very well attended. It was a district-wide event. A lot of work going on to support students during this pandemic. But are there any questions of College Counsel on any of the items 1 through 5 that we've covered thus far? Hearing none, Denise, let's go ahead and proceed.
Okay, the next item, Mr. President, is the college reorganization process. There's work going to be done June 25 and June 25th and 26th as part of the planning summit. Are there some items that you want to raise there?
Yeah, Cesar or Tia, can we share the timeline. I think it's important for folks to see the timeline because we've been thrusted into a less than ideal reorganization. You know, normally you would want to take 1 to 2 years to do this, but when you lose nearly 50 employees and you're facing these economic challenges, I wanted to make sure that the college is on the same page in terms of how the process is going to work. So are we able to share that document?
I'm bringing it up now. It had to download. One moment.
And so as Tia is bringing up that document, the gist of it is that the vice presidents have been having discussions in their units about the loss of either budget or employees and seeing how we might reorganize efforts moving forward. And so what you see that in the reorg plan is the dialogues that are going on in respective divisions. We expect to have the vice presidents in the next college council meeting present a draft as a first read of the implications to losing employees or losing entire departments. We are hoping to sustain the college over the next, I would say 3 years, which is what the forecasts are preliminary. And then during the summit at the end of the month, we'll have dialogue from college council, the chairs and other folks who will be attending that event. And then we'll come back to college council, the first meeting in July, for approval based on the dialogue. Now, folks, let me go ahead and admit this is happening quicker than any of us are comfortable with, but we're compelled to move forward from a planning standpoint because we know many of the positions that are either retiring or vacant are being absorbed to ensure that we make every effort to avoid layoffs. Are there any questions about the reorg plan?
The next, I think it's a document, the reviewed timeline of the process. Have we pulled that up?
Yes, that was the document that Tia was just sharing.
Okay, I'm looking at the other picture. Okay. All right, the next piece, the next item is review Nancy hire process. Roxann, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes, sorry about that. So I think we've kind of talked about this before, but I'm just going to reiterate the importance of following the process when hiring a Nance. So this applies to all Nances, whatever categorical funding, if it's GFU or some grant, this process needs to be followed. So prior to this budget crisis that we're in, typically a board approval to establish a position for a Nance would come from the hiring manager to business services, and it would be presented at the board. Now we are requesting that before a position is established, it needs to be approved by your vice president over your area. An example of that would be that the board approved form would come from the hiring manager to either Denise or Tilly. We would discuss it at exec and then would move forward in the process to be established. In addition to that, when the pass sheet is established to hire a Nance, it also needs to filter through the same process. Everything needs to go through your vice president over the area. I've provided some documents where it explained the different categories of hiring a Nance. I just want to kind of go over the most typical one, which is the vacancy. When you have a vacancy in your area, the normal practice is that you would backfill it with a Nance. Because we no longer have vacancies, most have been deleted, 90% of them. We cannot backfill a Nance for a position that no longer exists. So please keep that in mind when you're trying to hire or fill a position. Because like I said, this process needs to be followed in order to track every dollar that comes in and out of our campus and it needs to follow the guidelines of hiring a Nance, which are a substitute, a short-term Nance that is a student worker, a work study student, or a professional development. I'm sorry, a professional expert. I will send out that language, that form that describes each of those categories, as well as the signature process and what we're looking for when we're discussing or going over the Nance process. Is there anything else you want me to add, Ricky? Did I leave anything out?
No, thank you, Roxann. You know, again, are there any questions from any of the members of College Council about the NANS process?
Hi, Ricky. This is Jocelyn. I do have a question. So I know this is for Nance, but how does this affect if you're hiring an adjunct that's under a grant? Would we do a justification for an adjunct employee?
I know for Tilly's area, she has mentioned at her D's meeting that she wants to see all adjunct pass sheets. So everything should be following the signature process, because once we've kind of went over things, we discovered that there were a lot of things that were not going through your vice president over your area. So that paperwork, especially when it has a fund, and it could potentially be a fund that has been significantly cut during this process, we need to be sure that we can pay for someone. Our worst fear is that we hire someone, we get them started in position, and then the state comes back and cuts us again, and we have to give someone no notice they'll be unemployed. So we don't want to do that to anyone. We want to be sure that we have the resources to hire someone and bring them on. In addition to that, let me just add that we're not hiring people for the entire year. So it is going to be a semester by semester basis, because of the fact our budget crisis is very unstable. We don't know what can happen tomorrow. So, it would be unfair to the employee and unfair to our institution to secure or promise someone a job for the entire year when we are so unsecure about our budget right now.
Thank you, Roxann.
You're welcome.
And Jocelyn, I'm going to have to defer and ask Denise to send out what her process is going to be for tracking Nance's on the student services side. Or in this case, your question was dealing with adjuncts, but as Roxann has indicated, the ultimate answer is yes, the vice president should be signing off on the hiring of all adjuncts in their respective areas.
Okay, thank you.
That hasn't been our practice before. We've done it through the dean, but I will comport and make sure that our processes are delineated, communicated to all parties involved. Thank you, Ricky. Next item is president's office hours. It says general June 5th at 11. Is that date's already passed? We've already had June 5th. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. At adjunct and Nancy's June 15th, there is a special meeting that our president is hosting on June 15th. An open door for Nancy's and adjuncts to meet with him at 3 o'clock. Is there something you want to add there?
I'm attempting to pull up the screen so everyone can view it.
Yeah, all of these are opportunities for folks who have questions. We realize that our adjuncts and our Nancy's are going to be negatively impacted by this budget climate. And we want to hear them out. This doesn't have anything to do with their work ethic or how much we actually need them. It really is a matter of us losing funding at a rate that requires us to make some very drastic changes.
Okay.
And so we want to present an opportunity for them to come and ask questions and see what's going on at the college.
Okay, and then also there's an office hour for just the classified professionals on June 19th at 11 as indicated on that flyer. And the College Planning Summit is on June 25th and 26th. Susan, you want to talk a little bit about, or maybe Ricky, you may be best to talk about what's happening in the College Planning Summit? Or not?
No, yes, I was waiting. I saw a screen coming up. Cesar, can we share the College Planning Summit flyer? This is a very important meeting of College Council, and we've extended it to the SPA leadership, the classified professional leadership, and our chairs. This is a 2-day summit for us to look at how we're going to organize the college given the reduction of staffing and the reduction of budgets. Again, under normal circumstances, we would have wanted to do this over the course of a year or even 2. Unfortunately, folks, in the middle of a pandemic and a budget crisis, that requires us to come together as a college and talk about these areas. Planning for enrollment management. This is really a conversation around section distribution. Is going to be led by our Vice President of Instruction, Tilly Chavez, and our chairs and our deans. Planning for working remotely. I can tell you we're having conversations about PPE and phasing people back on campus. And so we want to have that dialogue and provide a space to answer questions and to do planning. 3 is the IEPI project under the leadership of Susan and the team working on that. We're going to roll out our governance structure ideas that folks have been working on for at least a year. And then the last area is the impact of these SERP and vacancies. And this is where we envision that the vice presidents are going to introduce their proposed organizational structure, having discussed these matters with their respective divisions. This will be an additional opportunity for folks to weigh in and talk about impact and opportunity. Certainly, I will defer to both Susan and the other vice presidents and even Cesar if folks either want to chime in on those 4 areas and or if you have questions about what's going on at the planning retreat.
I would just add briefly that Cesar's office has distributed a link to a survey form to the campus as a whole to provide input on the 4 topics listed on the agenda for June 25th and 26th. That will be open through tomorrow. So please look for that email and respond if you haven't already.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so the next College Council meeting is on June 23rd. And at that meeting, there's going to be a draft of our organization chart. Okay. And then the final matter is an academic senate resolutions process. Is anyone from academic senate here ready to talk about that some? Or Ricky, is there something you want to add?
Yes, we've had discussions with the Senate regarding OEI, and we found that we needed to firm up the way that an academic Senate resolution, where it goes after the Senate introduces a resolution. And so we were hoping and in discussion with our faculty leadership that after they present and approve a resolution, that ultimately someone would come to College Council and present that resolution so that the college could discuss as a leadership body, a governance body, a participatory governance body, what the concern, support, need is of the faculty. Nadia and Luis, is any thoughts on that? Masa?
So that was accurate. That was our discussion in terms of closing the loop in terms of, especially with resolutions, once they've been finalized and discussed with the Senate, that would bring it up here so that there's a campus-wide knowledge and awareness. And as you mentioned, so their full support and structures are implemented. So it's gonna be a good process.
Great, sounds great. Great, anything else, Nadia or Masa, do you want to add something?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, are there any other matters? This is the completion of our agenda. If there is no objections, this meeting is now ended. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all. Thanks, Denise, for running the meeting. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Aaron, for your timely thoughts too. Something for us to
Yeah.
think about as we leave this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, bye.